Media. What's going on, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, everybody else? Luis Acevedo here. You are witnessing the Honest Hour. And today we got something pretty interesting to talk about. But we're going to give it a little bit, as always, to allow people to come on in. I am the founder of MOT Media, the host of the Honest Hour here every night, Monday through Friday at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then Sundays, we have our live stream with the rest of the guys on MOT Media at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So be sure to check that out. It's going to be great. We're going to be starting that. We already have a few episodes of that up right now, but with everybody in MOT joining, that's going to officially start this Sunday. And so we cover topics global, national, and then local. And then we'll even do some finance stuff as well. So, yeah, be ready for that. That's going to be really interesting. Today we have an interesting couple things to talk about. One main topic, as always, that I like to revolve around. And then if you guys have questions, obviously we can take your questions. So something that I was reading earlier today was the Quad. Now, the Quad, I guess, is a U.S., Japan, India, and I think Australia. I think Australia is in that as well. It's an alliance that tries and prevents the Chinese powers from taking over Indo-Pacific regions, right? And so as I was reading this, it seems, and if you guys have been following me for any length of time, you would know on my old YouTube channel, A Better World, I talked about this years ago. I mean, like back in 2015, 2016, not 2015, 16, but about 2017, actually. I talked about the Taiwan and China war that was brewing. It's been going on for a long time, and I've also been covering the Cold War that we have been actively in for years with China. And so this is really starting to heat up ever since the Russian invasion of Ukraine. And this has made a lot of people aware of the fact that China will probably invade Taiwan and reclaim it as its own. What a lot of people are unaware of is the fact that Taiwan has always been a piece of land China has claimed as its own. I'll give you a little history lesson here. So, the Taiwan Island, as it's known right now, came about during the war in China over the government. It was a civil war that took place. You had the Communist Party and you had the Nationalist Party. The Nationalist Party is what made China a republic back in the day after the fall of the dynasty system, which was in place for thousands of years. And so you had this war going on for a long time. The United States and the Western powers funded the National Party, while Stalin and the Communist parties funded the Communist Party in China. And so you had this war going on for a long time. Japan was also involved in this war. And what ended up happening is the Republican Party the Republic ended up winning, but they did not stay in power for very long because at the end of the day, the Communist Party ran them away, scared them away. And so the Republican Party, the Nationalist Party in China, ended up going down and retreating into Taiwan. And in Taiwan, they claimed to be the actual China. They claimed to be the Republic of China. Okay? But the Chinese nation itself, which was separate from Taiwan, the mainland China, always claimed to be China. And Mao and Stalin had plans to take over Taiwan back in the day. That never came to fruition. And so now we are where we are. Appreciate your knowledge. Thank you very much. give a like, for appreciating my knowledge. So yeah, I'm really enamored by Chinese history. So anyway, so Mao and Stalin did not take over China. I mean, Taiwan. They ended up just letting it be its own thing for years and years and years and years and years. And then you come to where we are today. So when China says that this is a historic moment, they are being very serious because this has been going on for years. And so Taiwan, in my opinion, has never been its own thing. It has always belonged to China. Do you think Sweden will join NATO? That's what they're trying to do. But I don't know. I mean, Turkey has stated they don't want Finland or Sweden to join NATO because they're actively supporting terrorist groups. And that terrorist group, who Turkey says is a terror group, I am a Turk. Interesting. Okay. So, yeah, the Turkish government has stated that Sweden and Finland are supporting a terrorist group, and that terrorist group allegedly is the Kurds, which, if you know anything about what's going on in Turkey at the moment, the Kurds are, I guess, in the rebellion group trying to take over that country. They bomb buses and attack cities, but not all of them are bad. Interesting. Yeah. So that's that's the group that Finland and Sweden support, and so Turkey is saying they don't want somebody who supports that group in there. And that's what's kind of holding up the process. So we'll see if Finland and Sweden actually get into NATO. I don't think it'll actually do anything whatsoever to prevent war. That's actually a contradiction to what we see in history, right? Because every time there's any sort of military alliance that is formed, a war starts, a war is there. So it's the opposite of what one does to prevent war, right? So anyway, back to what's going on in China and Taiwan. We are seeing China getting ready to take over Taiwan. And I do believe that Taiwan belongs to China. That is my opinion based on the history I have read. And so I don't think it is far fetched for China to say they want to take it back. Now, I think that this will actually be the catalyst for World War III. I have speculated that a false flag event taking place in the NATO drills near Russia may be the thing that sparks World War III. But I think what's more probable is the fact that we have already created all these alliance and this allegiance with Taiwan, that once China invades or tries to take over Taiwan, the United States will then have to back up what it's been saying, not just with money and economic resources as it's doing with Ukraine, but actually providing manpower to fight against China. And I think that will ultimately be the demise of the United States, because then it's going to be fighting multiple fronts. And then you also have to contest with Iran. Iran is going to be involved in this war too. So we can't throw them out of the equation entirely. We can't forget about them at all either, because Iran also partners with China and Russia when it comes to this geopolitical matter. And China and Iran have had a relationship, a partnership for a long time, all the way back years. I mean, if you really want to date this thing, it's like thousands of years, right, with the Silk Road. But if you want to modernize it, it's like the 1900s, excuse me, where you start seeing this relationship really flourish. So I think it's going to be bad news for the Western powers. I think what's going to happen after China invades Taiwan is we will see a shift. Have you heard about nukes? I have. Well, yes, everybody's heard about nukes. Um, I'm not concerned about that whatsoever. I typically don't believe that nukes are even real, but that's a whole other topic on itself, on its own. They may be real. I don't know. I think there's a lot of evidence to suggest that they're not real. If you look at what took place in Japan after the bombing we did, the radiation was gone in a year, but apparently when radiation is affecting a place like Kurima, or however the hell you pronounce it over in Ukraine, I believe, Crimea, Crimea, however the hell you pronounce it, where all the nuclear reactors, cause a lot of radiation. It There's wildlife thriving there right now, and there are people that have lived there through the whole thing, right? So there's just a false narrative about nukes, I think. So I'm not really concerned about nuclear warfare. I'd be more concerned about the collapsing of supply chains and local warfare. That doesn't mean that they don't have weapons of mass destruction that they can actually do a lot of damage, but I don't know that nukes are actually legit. Anyway, so I really think that what's going to be the catalyst for World War III will be China invading. Have you ever served in the U.S. military? I have not served in the U.S. military. Um, I do know people who have. They have provided me a lot of information, and yeah, I guess I'll have to leave it as that. So I know a few people who are in the government. So anyway, the U.S. disappeared. Oh, okay. So the U.S. I think will be stretched thin with trying to support Ukraine and trying to support Taiwan. His name was Tyranny on Mask on YouTube. Okay, okay. So who is that guy? His name was Mass Tyranny on Mask on YouTube. Who is he? Like, what does he talk about exactly? Um, so I think the United States will be stretched thin by trying to fight multiple wars on multiple fronts. First off, we don't have the manpower to do that anymore. We already know this because I can't remember exactly his position in the army, but an army general of some sort, somebody ranked in the army, was at a congressional hearing stating that they need more people in the army specifically and the military in general because they are too short staffed, just like everybody else, right? And nobody really wants to go fight and die for their country. Nobody really wants to go be a part of that. In addition to the fact that they're short staffed or whatever you want to say, short man, they also have a bunch of weaklings in their ranks because I have heard from people who are in the military talking about the fact that now in training camps, they give their new recruits cards, stress cards, that if they get too stressed out from their drill sergeant yelling at them, they can put up their card and they will not get yelled at. How in the hell are you supposed to survive in combat? How do you have any confidence in those individuals who are now being recruited and trained in military to defend you or me? I certainly don't. That doesn't mean all of them are bad, all of them are weak. Not at all. That is not at all what that means. But it is a cause for concern, and it shows we are not properly prepared to fight multiple wars going on simultaneously. It just doesn't make sense. We are not prepared. And plus, we're already deploying troops into Somalia once again. So it just doesn't make sense to me. And I don't know, like, the United States military will show us here soon that the American empire is done. It's finished. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. That isn't something to scare people. That could actually be a good thing for American citizens because then we won't have to deal with this nonsense of being the global police and having to be involved in everything globally. It could actually be a blessing in disguise for a lot of normal people. That may mean that we won't go to war as often. So there's a lot of good things that may come about as a result of that. That doesn't mean that there won't be bad things that come as a result of that. For instance, right now, our currency is faring the best out of all the other currencies simply because we are the United States and we have the United States military defending and basically propping up our currency. But what happens once we're no longer number one? Well, our currency becomes less valuable. But then this is where I think cryptocurrency has its place, where it can supplant a lot of fiat currencies. And then also, this is where I think having tangible assets and actual resources in the real world have a very, very, very potent effect, right? Because if you actually own real land, there's so much you can do with that, whether it be having your own farm, having your own community live on that land, whatever it may be, there's so much you can do with that. So there's a lot of opportunities that come in times like these. So it isn't meant to be a fearful time, but rather understanding where we currently are at and what one can do in order to position themselves and their families in the best possible situation to be in. To try to make the best out of the outcome that we're going to be facing inevitably here. I mean, the fall of an empire is inevitable. It's only a matter of time, and that's currently what we're living through in the United States of America. And I think the China and Taiwanese war will demonstrate that on a level most are unwilling or unable to see at the moment. The Russian-Ukraine war are only the tip. I think it's only the tip of the iceberg. I think there's going to be. I mean, there was this one individual. I can't remember his name, but I guess there's cycles for big wars that take place, and we are due in that cycle for a big war to take place, and that's where I think World War III comes into play. And I don't really concern over nuclear warfare or anything like that. The biggest concern, I believe, is going to be famine. It's going to be supply chain issues. It's going to be local warfare amongst individuals, civil warfare, that kind of stuff, I believe is more of a threat. That doesn't mean that we won't have some sort of invasion in the United States, but I think it's more likely to have citizens eating apart other citizens. That's what I think. And so I believe it is very, very important to establish a good community right now and try and provide as much much value as you can to that community in whatever way you can. Additionally, becoming more self-sufficient, as we always preach here at MOT Media, localizing your supply chain is the most empowering and important thing a person can do during these times. Um, Now, there's some other stuff that's going on in the news currently too. For instance, there's some news that broke earlier today regarding Hunter Biden, and I have to say that the Biden family has to be one of the most stupid and corrupt families in politics. It just has to be said. Everybody wants to talk about the Clintons, but man, the Bidens. I mean, okay, well, with the Clintons, you can't call them stupid. They're very intelligent individuals. But what the Bidens have on them is their low IQ, and their level of corruption is uh, equal to the level of corruption the Clinton family has demonstrated. So, right here in this latest article on Zero Hedge, you have um, the fact that Hunter Biden had received $11 million over the course of 5 years. And we know some of that came from the Ukrainian firm that he worked with. And then there's also $5.8 million that came from a Chinese company. Nobody knows why they were paid that amount, but Hunter Biden. Um, and the owner of that Chinese company has been banished, has been gone out of the mainstream eye for years now in China. So that's rather interesting. And the reason he's been missing is because of economic corruption or economic crimes, rather. And nobody really knows what Hunter Biden did at that time, but he did something worthy of being paid $5.8 million, apparently, allegedly. So, yeah, that's pretty interesting. But the main topic that I really wanted to talk about today had to do with this bill that is that has passed in the House. Give me a second here. I want to make sure I get the bill name correct. Bear with me, bear with me. Right here. All right. So the bill that had just passed the House of Representatives, 217 to 207, is the Consumer Fuel Price Gouging Prevention Act. And so basically, what this law would do, this bill would allow the President of the United States to declare an emergency on an energy emergency, which would then allow the FTC to taper down prices on oil, because the ultimate goal with this was to prevent price gouging, because the Democratic narrative on this particular issue is that the oil companies are raising the prices and doing so to profit from drivers who have no choice but to buy the high gas prices, despite the fact that their earnings are going through the roof. This is the Democratic argument, at least part of the Democratic argument. Another side of the Democratic argument is that Russia is a direct result, or is the direct cause of this spike in gas prices and oil prices. And so those are the two sides that we're seeing here. And you hear that roughly, I think it was like 6 oil executives had testified before the Energy Committee in the House, and they did state that, there is price gouging that takes place essentially. And so Democrats are warning on this narrative, but the issue with the bill is in the details. As always, the devil is in the details. So in the bill, it states that if the prices are unconscionably excessive, then the president has the right for 30 days to invoke an energy emergency, which will then allow the FTC to step in and attempt to hone in prices. The issue first lies in the fact that what does an unconscionably excessive price look like? Some would say it looks like that right now. Others would say it would be $10. And then what would not be an excessive price? What would be a fair price? Because typically the way these things work is by the market, right? The market determines what a fair price is. Obviously, the businesses are going to upcharge so that way they can make a profit, but they're the ones providing you a product or a service. So they're at liberty to do that because they are the ones who are providing a certain level of conveniency in your life. And so, how do you determine that from this bill? This bill is very vague. And to add on to that, why is it that we have the oil? What is the real reason we have the kind of gas prices we're experiencing now? Well, it has a lot to do with the fact that during the Trump administration, the country was producing roughly 13 million barrels of oil every day, and then and that was going up to 15 or 30 rather very soon. But now under the Biden administration, we are down to 11 million barrels every day. So it has dwindled by 2 million since the Biden administration. In addition to that, we had the cutting off of the XL pipeline and multiple other pipelines, and the attack on fossil fuels in general. So the administration has been very against fossil fuels, has been doing everything they can to prevent the increase in production of fossil fuels. Now the Biden administration is attempting to ease tariffs and sanctions rather on Venezuela because they want to import oil from Venezuela, right? Not only that, but a lot of Western countries, because of the sanctions that have been placed on Russia, have backed out of their deals with the Russian oil companies. And that has left up a huge portion of the market for China and India to take over. China and India have been taking over those deals that have been left on the table by the United States due to sanctions, right? So, in addition to that, well, actually, that may be the main things there. And so you have the Democrats stating that the main reason we need to implement this law is because oil companies are price gouging. When in reality, there's a lot of congressmen that are stating, hey, the oil companies just need to produce more oil and this problem will be solved. But they're not producing more oil because they're greedy and they have to make sure their stakeholders are getting a bigger piece of the pie. But in reality, the administration is very negative towards the production of more fossil fuels. And so this causes a rift in narrative and like what should be done. In a way, it's gaslighting the oil companies, not saying that they aren't price gouging, not saying that they aren't being unfair and unjust with their gas prices, but we also have to acknowledge this is a multifaceted issue, right? So while the oil companies may be charging more than they maybe should be because they have an excess amount of money because of the current situation, but we also have to factor in that the current administration does not want more fossil fuels to be produced. They want to switch over into green renewable energy. While nobody wants to consider the fact that oil may actually be a renewable energy. And the reason I say this, I've said it before on these live streams, this is anecdotal evidence. However, it may suggest that oil is a renewable energy, and that is there are many times where companies will go and drill for oil, the well runs dry, they come back 20 years later, there's more oil there, right? And how many years have we been at peak oil? For a lot. Yet we keep finding more and more oil. So what if oil is the renewable energy? What if, right? But that can't even be called into question. And the main reason that is because a lot of the Democratic Party is bought and owned by these green energy companies. And now I'm not going to sit here and be blinded to the fact that Republicans are also owned by and large by oil companies, right? So there's money influencing politics here, and it's very obvious to see. And so, it's very obvious. And we just have to look at it from a holistic perspective as to what's going on. And really, what's going on here is a total misdirection by the Democratic Party into stating the issue is price gouging. That isn't really the issue. There's many things that are causing the gas prices to increase. Chief among them, sanctions. Sanctions are not working in our favor. They're actually working in Russia's favor. They're actually working in the countries that we're trying to impose the sanctions on for once. And what do we do? This is an interesting piece of information I learned today. It's a little off topic, but it goes along with the idea of sanctions. And that is, what do we do once the United States is no longer the global police and we fall second, third, fourth in line to like China, Russia, and India, maybe, right? When China's at the top and then we're doing something and we're involved in warfare with them in some way, whether it be trade, whether it be physical war, like in Taiwan, if there's an issue with Taiwan, as I talked about at the top of the show, China has pretty much control over the entire medical or pharmaceutical needs, rather, of the United States, antibacterial and all other medical resources. 97% of them now come from China. So the sanctioning power of the United States has dwindled greatly, and we are seeing that with the war in Ukraine. I mean, how is this just not obvious to more people that the United States is no longer the power it used to be, but yet we're trying to wield the power as if we have it, but we really don't. And this is why it's so important on us, the people, to really start localizing those supply chains. And if you are going to do anything politically, it's best to do something politically on a local level. Don't worry about who your senator is, who the president is. Like, those are good things to know, kind of. But the more important thing to know is who's your city council member? What district are you in? Who's your mayor? Who's your sheriff? Those are real things that you can have an impact and an influence on. You don't need to be throwing around a lot of weight, i.e., money, to have influence when it comes to your local government. It does help. Don't get me wrong. I've been involved in a couple political campaigns on the local level, and it does help if you have money to throw around. Obviously, you'll get the ear of your candidate a lot quicker than somebody who did not donate or volunteer towards their campaign. So, if you are politically inclined in any way, that would be the most important thing for you to do. Focus on the locality in which you reside and how you can make an impact there. The reason we're talking about this high level stuff is to better equip you with knowledge to know what you can do on a practical level in your life. Like, I don't recommend anybody, pick up arms and go. Don't, because I think these wars are useless. Here's a comment on YouTube. If they make companies sell gas for less, then they can make a profit on. They just won't produce, and the shortages will get worse. We could see rationing like in the 70s when Nixon did something similar. I didn't know Nixon did something like that, but yeah, I mean that would be the issue, and that's another argument too, right? Like, if you give the government the power to say, hey, the prices are too high, they're then going to say the prices are too high for wheat, the prices are too high for rent. They're going to be able to declare these emergencies for a bunch of other things as well. And that's concerning. Another reason why I think this is concerning is because it will it'll slowly build up so that way the government would have the power to shut down oil companies by and large by declaring an emergency, an energy emergency, and then establishing a climate lockdown and then stopping the production of oil altogether because the carbon emitted is way too high. Something like that to then foster the shift into green energy to help facilitate the Great Reset. That's ultimately what I think the goal here is. So, I mean, maybe build a moonshine still. Try to make your own gas. I don't freaking know. I'm just kidding. I'm not telling anybody to do that, okay? But if you feel so inclined, I ain't gonna stop you. I ain't gonna judge you. But you didn't get the idea from me. All right? All right. But that's pretty much all I have for the show today. Unless anybody has any more questions, comments, something specific they want to talk about. That's pretty much all I have for today. I know it hasn't been an hour, but this has been the honest half hour. Obviously, the honest hour just rolls off the tongue a lot better than the honest half hour. So we're not going to call it the honest half hour. But if anybody has any specific topic that they want to talk about, feel free. If anybody wants to join on the live stream on TikTok, feel free. Um, Otherwise, we're going to be wrapping up the show here. So yeah, so just be on the lookout to see what's going to happen with that bill. The consumer fuel. What was it again? Let me just make sure I'm not going to butcher it. The right here. The Consumer Fuel Price Gouging Prevention Act. Be on the lookout for that. I don't know that it's going to pass the Senate, and it can always be reversed if I'm not mistaken. Once you get a um, new class coming in, which analysts are predicting a red wave, and we'll see. I wouldn't be surprised if we will see a red wave coming. And be on the lookout to see whose endorsements have won the most races, because that will tell you who's going to have the most political power going into 2024. I personally think Donald Trump is going to have the most political power going into 2024, but Ron DeSantis is a very, 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 very close second. Obviously, Ted Cruz is eyeing it as well. I don't think Joe Biden will be in for a second term. People don't like the guy. People are getting creeped out by the guy, and people are regretting the fact that they voted for the man. So, yeah. Anyways, guys, that is the show for today. Once again, if anybody has any comments, anything they want to add, feel free to. Any topics they want to discuss, that's cool. If not, I am going to um, get out of here, and I will be back here tomorrow, Friday, at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. These shows, The Honest Hour, is live Monday through Friday, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then Sundays, we do MOT Today, where it's me and the other fellows that are a part of media. And that is live Sundays at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Now, in the meantime, anybody who is interested in actually getting a lesson in crypto, learning about crypto, how you can get involved in crypto, why crypto is important, why you should know about it. If anybody's interested in that, there is a link in the bio on my TikTok, on the MOT News TikTok, where you can get a one-on-one session with me. We will spend an hour doing a deep dive into crypto. And then if you need more help after that, we'll work something out. But initially, we can schedule a time for 1 hour, and I will teach you all that I know in crypto. I've been in crypto since 2016. And to tell you, just to give you an example to show you that I know what I'm doing, I am in profit continuously right now during a bear market in crypto. I have been in profit the entire time this bear market is taking place. I have not lost a single dollar, not one doll hair during this time. I'm not a trader, by the way, either. I don't encourage trading, but I have not lost $1. We've made good money in crypto. So if you want to know more about crypto, there's a lot of people that I've trained already in crypto for free. They got it for free. And then I realized that it just takes so much time to properly educate people on crypto, and there's a lot of questions that they have. So, yeah, the knowledge is definitely worth something. So, if you're interested in that, feel free to go on the link and schedule a time, and we can get that one-on-one session going. But yeah, guys, thank you all for the support. And also, there will be merch coming for MOT Media. It's going to be cool. It's going to be dope. Get ready for it. Much love. Peace.